Like a Hellcat.
What's up, YouTube? Dan and Tech here. As requested, I'm going to be doing a video on just the basics of welding. One of my subscribers, Billy Shaw, asked me to put together something for him, so that's what I'm going to do. One of the ways that I learned to weld is I taught myself. I started with pipes, just scrap pipes, and what worked really well for me is learning how to fill gaps, so I can essentially get the art form down of heat, wire speed. When you're laying a good bead, it should sound like you're cooking bacon. So I'm going to set my machine is already set up. So up here is our wire speed, and that just controls how fast the wire comes out of the tip of your gun. Down here you have your voltage. It's for different gauge metal. So the higher the voltage, the thicker the metal. The lower the voltage, the thinner the metal. So I am going to be at about 4.5 on my voltage, and I am going to fill this gap. So I'm going to set you right here. See if I can get a better angle. And let's get started. Always wear eye protection. You don't want welder's flash. Never had it, don't ever plan on getting it, but I know people and have seen people that have gotten it, and it does not look fun. So always wear eye protection. I prefer glasses. When you wear glasses instead of a helmet, you tend to get the instant Miami sunburn look. It doesn't really bother me. I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of people that say, oh, you're going to give yourself skin cancer down the road. Honestly, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. I'm out in the sun all the time anyway. So whether it happens from me welding or being out in the sun, if it happens, it happens. So I'm going to put a tack on this so that it is level. And then I'm going to show you the tack, and then I'm going to adjust where this is in the vise and show you how I fill the gap. That was a bit of a beefy tack. So the way I tacked this, I did this on purpose. It's really close on one side, and there's a huge gap on the other side. So I can show you how to get a good seam on pieces that are flush, as well as fill gaps. So, let me show you how I'm going to do this. Alright, so I'm going to try and do this one-handed. So probably do with turning my heat up a little bit. So I'm going to do that. Bump it up to 5. And I'm going to continue around on this side of the pipe. Now, I'm not claiming to be the best welder in the world, but it's a little tricky to do one-handed. So you see how there's a high lip on that? That means I need to turn my heat up more. So, you always want to move in semicircle movements, like half moons, back and forth. Moving semicircle movements left to right like this is going to give you your best bead. So give me a second. Now I'm going to move to filling a huge gap, and I'm going to show you how I do it. Now as you can see, that is a pretty big gap. So I am going to set this down, reposition, so you guys can see. Alright, so I'm set up. Now I'm going to show you how I do this. Now I got to turn my heat down a little bit. I'm going to rotate my material. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here, and I'm going to draw back. Turning my wire speed up. Now you hear how that sounded? That means my wire speed's too high, or I could try and counter that by turning my heat up. So I'm going to try turning my heat up. My wire speed's still a little too high, so I'm going to turn that down. Alright, so this gap's getting pretty big, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay a small bead, a low bead I should say, down here, and then I'm going to build on that low bead. Now that got way too hot. That's why you saw it cool off. I'm going to talk about another technique for filling gaps. So what you do is you run your wire out and then you lay it across your gap in a series, and then you use what you've laid across as material to build on to help you build help you bridge a big gap. This can be extremely useful when you have exhaust with holes in it that's, you know, super rusted and rotted and thin, and you could overlay your wire on the gap and then go off of that as the beginning of a structure to lay a bead on. So I'm going to show you that real quick. Now, I don't know if you guys can see really well, but you see all that series of wire? It's like a bunch of little ladders. You can do that to give yourself something to build on. So now I'm going to show you how to go off. Turn my heat down a little bit. Now, sometimes another effective method is you can do a series of light tacks to help you build out so you don't melt through your material. So I may have to do that a little bit, but I'm going to do it anyway, regardless. One, to show you, and two, to make sure that this looks as best as possible, because not only does it need to be functional, it also needs to appear nice. You don't want to have to grind everything. If you're laying proper beads, right heat, right wire speed, clean material, you can get good angles, you have good gas flow, you should be able to lay beads that don't need any type of dressing other than protection from oxidation, which is rust. So I'm going to do a series of light tacks and build off of this just to show you what that looks like. Now, if you noticed, I was moving around a lot because I was watching my puddle. If you can control your puddle, you will almost always get a good looking bead if you know how to control your puddle. So I'm gonna go back over this bead I have right here, and I'm gonna melt the material back down a little bit, try and get it a little bit better appearing, because you can also do that in some instances. You can go back over a weld and lower your wire speed and increase your heat to try and reform your seam. Now I'll show you just how big that turned out to be. Alright, so cut the other segment off because I had to reset a couple things and I had to talk with a coworker. So as you can see, really thick, not super pretty, but the fact that that is as thick as it is will allow me to build off of that. Yeah, turn my heat down a little bit. Now hear that sounds like pop, 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 pop. That means I gotta turn my heat back up and turn my wire speed down a little bit. Now I'm starting to burn through, so I gotta start that tack, that continuous building of a tack weld that I was talking about earlier. Now, on that last bit, if you heard how it was going pop, 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 again, my heat probably wasn't high enough and my wire speed was probably too high. But that continuous building of tacks that I was showing you and talking about is super useful when you're starting to burn through material and you can't go too much hotter and you can't turn your wire speed up. So when you do that continuous tack, you need to hit it and then come off of it and let it cool, then keep building off of that tack, which will allow you to build and fill gaps, but you won't burn through and cause more damage than you're trying to repair. So now I'm going to show you another thing that I did on my own when I was learning, which is I'm going to write my name, just 3 letters, D-A-M, and it's going to help if you have time and the material and supplies. Seeing how you can write your name with a welder will help you master the art form. And I don't mean master as you'll be perfect. It'll give you a better grip on how to move, puddle control, heat, wire speed. It'll help you fundamentally tune your skills. So I'm gonna do my name real quick and then show you. Show you what it looks like. Now you can see it says Dan, and you know, I had to make a couple adjustments as I was going with my wire speed. Heat was almost pretty much where it needed to be, but if you look closely, there is what is called porosity going on here in the A that's really evident. See that right there? Now porosity almost explains exactly what it sounds. There's a pore in the weld, which means there's a gap in there because your wire speed was off just a hair, your heat may have been off a hair, and porosity is an imperfection in the weld. And in structural welds, porosity means you're compromising strength because the weld is not full, it hasn't been fully seamed, would be, I guess, the best way to describe it. But if you look over here, see it's a solid bead, no porosity. Now a lot of times what happens is when you terminate, when you do, because I'm sure you saw I did bead, a bead, a bead, a bead, a bead, a bead, and so on. When you terminate, so I terminated here, but I started back up here where my initial seam over here started, so I had time to cool. Now a lot of times you'll get porosity, and it's not really so much porosity right there. but it makes it a little bit more challenging to ensure that you get the same bead coverage and penetration when you stop and then start again. So a lot of times you need to overlap. And I don't know if it comes up, if you can see it well on the camera, but you see these semicircle engravings, so to speak. That's that half moon movement I was talking about, going back and forth, and that just ensures even coverage and gives you good puddle control. It's something that you got to work with, you got to play with, you learn while you're going. And you know, I didn't learn how to weld overnight, and I'm still not a perfect welder, but I am a lot better than I was when I first started. So that being said, I hope you guys found this useful. I'm not claiming to be a certified welder, a perfect welder, a god when it comes to welding. I'm competent. I know what to do. I know how to set my machine up. I know that when I do weld, it is safe. It is an acceptable, complete repair. I don't compromise quality over, we'll say, quantity. Welding up 8 exhausts in one day just because I can get them in and get them out. I'm not going to compromise my quality when I need to produce quantity. You know, however long it takes me to get the job done right, it's how long it takes me to get the job done right. And in no way, shape, or form in the automotive repair industry should you ever compromise quality for quantity. Okay? It's about making it right, not getting it done. Okay? So that being said, if you guys like this video, hit the thumbs up. It's free to subscribe. So, you know, hit that subscribe button. Help me grow the channel. Let's grow together. If there's other stuff you want to see, please let me know. I'll do my best to make it happen, and you know, get the word out. As my subscriber base builds, I know I've said it a million times, I'm going to start doing giveaways. So help me get the word out, and you know, I'm more than willing to show my appreciation. So thank you very much. Dan the Tech saying have a good day.